I just spent the past 3 minutes trying to figure out how to start this vlog because it is the most unconventional vlog. But hello vlog, welcome back. I think it's been like almost 2 months since I put up an actual vlog, not just like a workout video. And the beginning of 2025 has been insane. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, obviously you know why. I lost my apartment and car and city in the Palisades fire. So my life has been the most insane weirdness I've ever experienced. I was planning to vlog in Mexico. I was like, this will be my comeback vlog of like me with Shane in Mexico. And oh my gosh, where do I even start? I think what would be interesting is to talk about how I found out my apartment burned down, and we can kind of just go from there because I feel like we need a crazy catch up with 2025. I was gonna do like a vision boarding, like show you guys what I put on my vision board, which is hilarious because obviously a fire was not on my vision board. Nothing that I put on my vision board has happened in January. It's quite the opposite. So anyways, let's start from the beginning. Shane and I wake up Tuesday morning. This is January 7th. We're stoked to go to Mexico. I'm there working with the hotel, so I'm excited. It was so windy outside, like my doormat had already flipped over, which I feel like if the wind can pick up the doormat, that's some serious wind. So we like left at 8 a.m. in our Uber, kind of like, oh yeah, it's super windy, but like we've had wind before, we've had fires before in Malibu, like nothing, you know, comes of it, so we didn't think too much about it. Our flight left at 11 a.m., which means we were on the plane at 10:30 when the fire first started up in the Highlands. We're about like 7 miles down. Highlands is like higher Palisades, and then you go one road down and you're at like the main Palisades, where like the Palisades village is. And we're 1 mile down Sunset from the village. So like we're pretty close to the base of Sunset. We're like right in the center of the base of Sunset and Temescal. If you don't know where this is, it doesn't really matter that much about the geography. But didn't think too much of it. I guess Shane, since he knew that the fire had just started, when he was sitting there, he was kind of like, should we get off the plane? He didn't say anything. I didn't even think anything of it. But then when we landed in Mexico 3 hours later, I saw that we had a mandatory evacuation warning. I saw stories of the fire like on Instagram, and I immediately started crying. Like I think it was like, holy shit, like this actually is very real. Like this could be a really, really bad thing. Still, I didn't think it would burn down my apartment or so many other people's homes or anything. But I was like, okay, this is serious, and like we're here now. Like we can't just go back home. So he was texting his friend saying kind of like, do you want to try to get in the Palisades? Like we don't have a spare key, maybe break a window, that kind of thing. But still, we didn't think it was that serious. Like I wasn't like, oh, break down the door, like this is serious. It was like, do we really need to do that? Like that kind of sounds annoying. And so we kind of just like go on. We're super anxious, by the way, like so anxious, and we had to go through customs, which feels like it took 4 hours, but we just were standing there like, great, like our apartment might burn down. Like this is pretty freaking wild. And so we kind of go about the day. We get to the hotel finally around like 6 p.m. We go to dinner, and at dinner, I don't even know if you guys can really see this because it's not focusing, but the fires, all 5 of the TVs at this restaurant just had fires casually playing. And we were like, this is the last thing that we need on our minds right now. Like we're trying to like maybe enjoy the trip, but there's just so many reminders of, oh yeah, your house might burn down. And so we're there, and honestly, I think our attitude was like, I had stopped crying by then, obviously. And I think we were like more so laughing because it was so like, holy shit, like this, like it's an out of body experience. I always hear that thing. It really is, where something terrible could happen, but like it's so just out there that your brain doesn't comprehend what's truly happening. We went about the night. I think that every 5 minutes we would check our phones. Like we've never been on our phones so much. People probably at the restaurant thought we were just like the worst couple ever because we were on our phones the entire time, being like, oh my gosh, look at this story, and oh my gosh, like the fire map is saying this. Like it was just so like, as if you guys were in LA, you know how stressful it was. If you were checking your phone, like you get it. The news was just full fire, everything. And I kept checking it because I was like, I just want to know. So that night we go to sleep. I could barely fall asleep. He could barely, like, it was just not good sleep. And the next morning we wake up and we're like, okay, we still don't know about our apartment. And I was like, okay, let's go to the gym. I need to burn off some steam. I need to like distract myself, run, something like that. And so at the gym, I thought that I had finished my period, so I didn't put a tampon in. Sorry for TMI. If you guys are TMI, like, this isn't the channel for you because I'm very TMI. So I'm at the gym and I'm running sprints on the treadmill. And sure enough, I can feel it. And I literally am like, are you freaking serious right now? And so I kept running. I stuck my shirt in my spandex to like hang down so like nobody else could see. And I kept running because I was like, I need to run right now. Like, I can't deal with this. And then it was between my thighs and I was like, okay, screw me. So that was just like another annoying thing to deal with. It felt like it was just one thing after another on this trip. And so after that, we go back, we shower, whatever. We go to lunch. It's now 12:40. We had barely eaten the night before or that morning because we were too anxious. And so we're there sitting. We just had our burritos. I took a bite. I've been texting people being like, can you send me videos? Do you have any? Like, we just wanted to know if it burned down or not. Shane's friend an hour earlier had been on the phone with Shane and was like, yeah, I somehow got on the Palisades. I guess he knew somebody in the fire or whatever. And he was like, from the Domino's to the Village, which my apartment is along there on Sunset, he was like, that place it's fully unrecognizable. Basically saying like everything is so destroyed by the fire, you don't even know where you are if like you're not from there. So I was like, okay, that's obviously terrible news. Still wasn't fully accepting it. I wasn't like, you know, totally down bad by then at that point. And then like an hour later, we're sitting at lunch and my friend Wade, whose dad lived like across the street from us, Wade sends me a video. And we're looking and I see my old apartment that I used to live on that's still on Sunset, opposite side of my current one. And I see that's destroyed, which is obviously heartbreaking because there were also Pepperdine girls that had lived in that one like right after me. So I felt bad for them. And at the last split second of the video, the literal last split second, like we had a triple check over and over, you just see where our apartment was standing. And it's just fully burned down. There's nothing to it. And I think Shane and I actually looked at each other and laughed. Like, I think we both laughed because we were like, there's no way that this is happening. Like, this is just unreal. Like, there's just no way. My mind still wasn't grasping. And then it hit me, sorry for the phrase, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. I broke down crying, full on like body shaking, like unwell in this restaurant that had tons of people in it, just like crying so hard. And I'm like, I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. Because you're out, like we're in Mexico. We are far from home. We can't just like zip on over to home that quick. And I was like, I want to go home. I want to go home. And Shane had to like help me up out of the chair because we're leaving to go back to the room. And he helps me like walk over to the elevator. I couldn't even stand on my own. He was like literally lifting me. And funny part here, we get into the elevator. I'm sobbing, you guys, like full on like wailing, crying. And this other couple gets into the elevator with us, which I'm like, if you see somebody sobbing, like I would not get in the elevator. I'd be like, I don't want to, that's awkward. Like I don't want to deal with that. They get into the elevator with us and I'm just holding on to Shane crying. They're standing on the opposite side of the elevator and I can even feel how awkward it is, but I don't give a shit because I'm just lost my home. And so I'm sobbing and then we get to our floor. They get out and we begin to get out and the girl had like accidentally gone to the right when she meant to go to the left. And so she starts laughing. I can like see her laughing. I don't think she was like laughing that I was crying. She wasn't like being mean or anything, but she was like obviously uncomfortable. So I was like, girl, I get the laughing. But I was like, it was just funny. So then we get back to the hotel room. We cry on the bed for probably like a good 20 minutes. And then I call my mom and apparently my mom had been sobbing because I had already texted her like my house burned down. She is like doing what as any mom would do is sob and be so sad for her daughter, but also like how scary it is to think that your child could have been like one of the cars on the road that like they had to leave their car and run down Sunset. So I think in her head she was like, thank God that wasn't you, because I can't imagine how terrifying that was for all the families and people that had to deal with that. And so she's just crying and I guess my grandma had called her because I'd also texted my grandma in our group chat, and my grandma and my uncle had been crying too because my grandma, that's where she got sober like 30 years ago, and my uncle had gone to elementary school there. So the Palisades has been like a huge thing for my family and I, and it was where I saw, like, that's where my end game was. If I didn't end up like coming back to Orange County to raise a family, it was going to be hopefully in the Palisades. And so Shane and I like crying, I get off the phone with my mom, and Shane comes out, and our room was right near the pool. And we were hearing club music the whole time we're sobbing, by the way. So you're hearing like Neo and Cardi B and like everybody like that just doing their thing. And so we had like been ignoring it. And so he comes over, he's sobbing because Shane just lost all of his life work. So he had like 12 hard drives that he had all his video clips. He's a photographer, videographer. So we had all of that on the hard drives. And then he had, the past like 3 months, he had been going through all of his negatives from his rolls of film to print them, to scan them and print them to sell as prints. And they all burned in the fire. So all of that work he had already been doing to sell like his prints, all gone. And so he was like obviously just devastated about that. And so then the song like Crazy Frog comes on. I don't think I can even play it on YouTube because it's copyrighted, whatever. But it's like Crazy Frog, do 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 do, Crazy Frog, do 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 do. You know what I mean? So that comes on, which is just like the weirdest song ever. And I think we both like started to like, through my sobbing, I started laughing and he started laughing because we're like, how is this song playing out one of the lowest moments of our lives? Like, this is a terrible moment, and that song is playing. Like, forever I'm gonna look at that song differently. And so he's like, should we dance? And that's when I made the TikTok video, if you guys saw it, and put that up, because it was just like, we're devastated, but like, it's honestly funny that that song is on. Like, if you can't like smile at that, like, what's the point of life? Like, at some point you just have to like laugh about it if life is like really doing you that dirty. And so the rest of the trip was very interesting. We tried playing pickleball right after the whole thing, and it was like raining, and we were like, I started crying and I started laughing and crying because it's just so, there's like no words for it. We surfed that day, we saw a turtle, we saw a stingray jump out of the water, we saw a whale, like the most amazing surf I've ever had. There was no sun the whole trip, which also was a Debbie Downer, but there was no wind. So the waves were just perfect and nice, and they weren't too big where I was scared, but they weren't small and boring. And so we just like, I felt like I really saw God in that right there, because it was like, yeah, life on land is really freaking awful right now, but like out here in nature, like how good is this? Just like such a positive surf experience, which if you've ever surfed, like sometimes it is not fun at all. Like sometimes it sucks. So that was amazing. The next 2 days were very interesting. In one sense, I got a lot of hate on the internet because of my video where Shane is like, should we dance? And then people thought I was phony crying. People thought I was making fun of somebody who I'd literally never heard of. And I'm like, no, like, sorry, this is how my grief is coming out. Like, I'm devastated, but also like when it's that bad, at the end of the day, you kind of just like need to laugh a little bit. And then the other side was, I've never received so much love in my life, where like I am so thankful I had that, because if I didn't have that, I think it would have been a dark, dark road. But I had the most amazing support system with my family, with my best friends, people who I haven't seen in 10 years reaching out, people, obviously all of you guys. Like, thank you guys so much for being there for me, because that is what pulled me out of what could have been a very dark road. Like, I already know that if I didn't have that kind of support, I wouldn't even be functioning how I've been functioning the past like week and a half. And so thank you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. Thank you guys for that. I have never received such love. I have screenshotted so many messages that meant so much to me to look back on with any dark day like to come. And I've had so many people be like, oh, like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what you're going through, I can only imagine, but blah, blah, blah. But like, if you've experienced any kind of grief or any kind of loss, like I have one friend who she and her husband divorced, and obviously that's a loss in that sense. And so like, you get the feelings of loss and of grief. It comes in waves. One moment's okay, one moment isn't, and it's just the weirdest road to navigate. And so from this experience, I feel like it really showed me that humanity is still so good, and seeing all of LA come together, and also seeing people from Australia and the UK and Mexico and just all these places around the world come to like, you know, be there for LA, to be there for me, to be there for my friends. Like it's something that is just, there are no words to describe like how much that was needed and just like how amazing that is. And so that's how it's been for the past couple weeks. We got home from Mexico and it's been weird. It's been just super weird because honestly, in one sense, I felt like I was really living my dream life in the Palisades. Like if you've ever been there, it's almost, don't hate me for saying this, but it's like a little bubble. Like you get to go up in the Palisades and you feel like you're in a happy, family oriented, like positive area, and you're 2 minutes from the beach. And then if you want to go into LA, you can also just like step out of the bubble and go into LA, into like real life. Like it just was such a happy home place. You had elementary schools and a high school, and just life was just like good there. And so it feels weird to not have that. That is why I lived in LA, was to live there. So now I'm like, okay, do I want to go back to LA? Now I'm staying in Orange County at my parents' house, and I think a part of me was like, oh, I'll live in LA for as long as I can in the Palisades, and then if I don't live in the Palisades, I will come and live in Orange County with a family. So now I'm like, should I start living in Orange County sooner? And I am so lucky and so grateful that my family lives here, because I can't imagine being displaced and not having any family in the state. Like I have a friend and he stayed at my boyfriend's house for a little bit because his family lives in like Washington? No, they live in Virginia. So he couldn't just like go stay somewhere. Like he had to find a place immediately, and that was the case for a lot of people. So I'm very lucky that my family lives close by and I can stay here till I figure things out. But that's my plan. Stay here until I figure things out, if I want to be in LA or Orange County. And yeah, it's just been crazy. I think in the very beginning, a lot of the sadness was about like my belongings, which obviously I know they are replaceable. I'm not stupid. Like I know logically they're replaceable. They're just things. But I am 26 and I feel like the past few years, you know, I worked hard to be able to afford some of the products and to afford my car, and like that was my first big girl purchase, and to have my apartment and stuff. And so in a way it felt like it was reflecting my hard work and determination and drive to be able to achieve that. And so seeing that burn in the fire, like that was really hard to understand and to just like see in the first couple weeks. And then over the past week, you know, I've gotten some belongings back, like buying different things, and I got my car. And someone pointed out, they were like, you know, these things are a reflection of you, but they're just like a mere reflection. They are not you. Like you are your creativity, you are your joy, you are what you carry through your relationships in your life. And so you didn't lose that. And so that's what I just keep reminding myself over and over. And so now kind of the sadness that does come, usually I'm fine during the day, which is like really nice, but at night I do get really sad for the place that like I thought I would be, and just changing expectations and realizing that maybe that dream isn't going to pan out the way I thought, because I personally am somebody who likes to plan everything out because it makes me feel in control. And I've really had to just let go of control and just be like, God, guide my steps, like wherever you want me, that's where you'll put me, whether that's LA or Orange County. And so that's kind of the perspective that I've been taking. And so I'm really trying to let myself, like I've been in therapy, and when I get to that feeling of grief and sadness, I just sit in it and I just let it come. I don't try to distract myself. I kind of just let myself feel this uncomfortable sadness. And I've like at night, it usually happens like when I'm going to sleep. And so I'll be there, and usually I like in my head pray to God, but I've lately been praying out loud. And I think that me speaking out loud to him in my dark room makes it feel like I'm talking to somebody. And so it makes it feel a lot more real, and it feels like somebody's listening. And I think anytime I can get my feelings off my chest and talk, I always feel better. And so I think for anybody who's struggling with anything, whether you believe in God or not, if you want to speak to the universe, if you want to whatever, saying it out loud, there's such a power in that, rather than just like thinking of it in your head. I feel like it just makes it feel like, okay, like somebody's listening, like I'm not alone in this, you know? And so yeah, that's how 2025 has been. So we'll see where I go. Part of me is thinking, like, since I don't have any rent to pay, my mom is like, you know, my agenda is for you to live here 6 months, which I'm like, okay, I'm 26, like, I don't think I want to do that. Thank you, Mom, love you. I think that I want to, since I'm not paying rent, I'm like, and I don't have any furniture or anything, no ties, essentially is like go to Australia maybe for a week or two or something. Because I've never wanted to leave that long. Like literally I've never wanted to leave the Palisades or Orange County that long because I love it. Like I really just love where I live. So now I'm like, well, I'm not tied here. Like I guess I could do that. This is the time to do it. I can work from wherever. Obviously I'm not gonna do some long like vacation or something. I'm gonna be working, but I've always wanted to experience it for more than just like 7 days, you know? And so I think that that would be a great way for me to really become more independent, because personally I don't love being by myself. So I think having that time on a solo trip would be so good for me to learn, like, to feel comfortable being alone and not to feel lonely being alone. And so that's why I'm like, this is the time to do it before I, you know, get a new apartment eventually. So that is kind of where I am for my 2025. It's been so interesting. I'm not saying I'm out of the woods by any means, but I'm so thankful that I'm doing better than I was like a couple weeks ago. And I think because of you guys, like seriously, that kind of positivity and love and just thoughtfulness, and you guys like taking however long it takes to write a freaking long paragraph, like that's just, see, I don't have words for it. Also, I'm a little bit sick, so I think my brain's not working. But it's just like, anytime I get even the slightest sad, I think of that and it just helps me. Like, it really just helps me. So, thank you guys. And if there's ever any way that I can not repay it, because I know it's not about that, but I want to be there for you guys. So, oh, that's another thing I was going to say. Thinking of doing, when the weather is better, some like workout at the beach in LA or Orange County, because I want to see you guys and finally get to put like a face to all of the messages and all the kindness and everything. So we will get to that, but until then, I will see you in the next vlog. Bye.